In the heart of London, on a day that seemed like any other, the city woke to the usual din of market vendors and clattering horses. But this day was different. But the truth is far more brutal, far more real. This is the story of a man who dared to stand against an empire, and the lengths to which that empire would go to silence him. This was the day they tried to erase a man whose name would echo through the ages. His name was William Wallace. Scotland was a land torn apart, a battlefield between loyalty and survival. Nobles switched sides, villages burned, and in the chaos, a hero emerged. Not a prince, not a noble, but a minor landowner with nothing left to lose. The English had taken his family, his home, his peace. In 1297, he fought back, leading a small army to a stunning victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. He became a symbol of hope, a symbol that King Edward I of England could not ignore. You might think you know his story from the movies, the legend of a brave Scotsman fighting for freedom. Rewind to the late 1200s. King Edward, known as Longshanks, was a ruler feared across the Isles. He had crushed Welsh resistance, expelled thousands of Jews from England, and now he saw Wallace as a threat to his iron grip. Spies, informants, traitors, anyone who could help the English find him. Eventually, the betrayal came, as it so often does, from within. Wallace was captured near Glasgow. Some say it was Sir John Menteith, a fellow Scot, who gave him up. We may never know the full truth, but we do know what came next. By 1305, most Scottish nobles had bent the knee, choosing safety over rebellion. But Wallace, he kept fighting, even if it meant standing alone. And so the hunt began. The English dragged him from Scotland to London, parading him through villages like a trophy, bound and blooded. They wanted to break his spirit long before the final blow. By the time he reached Westminster Hall, where his trial would take place, Wallace had already endured weeks of humiliation. The trial was held in Latin, a language he likely didn't understand. He was charged with treason, murder, and sacrilege. But how could a man be guilty of betraying a king he never recognized? Narrator softly, Wallace answered, calmly and clearly, I never swore allegiance to Edward. I could not be a traitor to a king I do not serve. That was it. No tears, no begging, just truth. And for that, he was condemned. August 23rd, 1305. London prepared for a public holiday. Yes, a holiday. Scaffolds were built. Food stalls were opened. Ale was poured. Children were brought along to watch. This wasn't justice. It was entertainment. Wallace was tied to a wooden frame called a hurdle and dragged through the streets by horses. The road was long, winding through crowded districts. Every bump, every stone, tore at his body. He left a trail of blood behind him. People jeered, threw garbage. Some cheered, but Wallace, he didn't scream. He didn't cry. Witnesses say his eyes were focused somewhere far away, as if he had already left this world behind. Narrator softly, at Smithfield, the execution ground. The crowd was massive. Vendors sold meat pies and beer. Some had waited for hours to get a good spot, a front row seat. To suffering. The executioner began by hanging Wallace not high enough to kill him, just enough to choke him slowly. As his body jerked and twisted, they cut him down. Still alive. What came next is hard to imagine, even harder to say. But we must. While Wallace was still alive, the executioner began a process that was meant to be a display of power and a deterrent to others. The crowd watched as the executioner carried out the sentence, a punishment designed to instill fear and submission. The goal was not just to end a life, but to send a message that resistance would not be tolerated. In the end, the execution was a grim reminder of the lengths to which those in power would go to maintain control. Wallace's remains were divided and sent to different cities across Scotland: Stirling, Perth, Berwick, and Newcastle, as a warning to others. His head was placed on London Bridge, a symbol of the consequences of defiance, where it remained for years as a stark reminder to all who passed by. And for a while it worked. Scotland quieted. Many gave in. The message was clear. Look what we did to him. You could be next. But here's the part Edward didn't expect. Instead of destroying the cause, he turned Wallace into something even more powerful than a warrior. He turned him into a martyr. Across Scotland, people whispered his name. They remembered his courage, his silence, his defiance. And years later, a man named Robert the Bruce, who had once fought against Wallace, found new fire in his heart. He would finish what Wallace started. The brutality meant to crush a movement only lit a deeper flame. William Wallace's death was more than just a tragedy. It was a turning point, a lesson written in blood. His story was passed down through songs, stories, and later films. Not because he won. Think of a man who endured the unthinkable and stayed true to himself. Because freedom isn't given. It's earned sometimes at the highest price. And sometimes it lives on in the stories we refuse to forget. But because he refused to break. And here's what we take from it today. The methods may have changed. No more public executions. No more spikes on bridges. But the struggle between power and freedom, that still echoes. The choice to stand for something, even when it costs everything, that's still a choice we face. Wallace reminds us that dignity isn't taken, it's surrendered. And he never surrendered it. Even when stripped, tortured, and humiliated, he held onto something no king could kill. His will. So when you hear the name William Wallace, don't just think of war cries and swords. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing for more stories from history. And don't forget to like and share this video. Until next time, keep exploring the past.